Today's program has been brought to you through the generosity of Harding's Garage, 37 Courier Road, Fairfield. By Dan and Scott's Cremation and Funeral Service, 445 Waterville Road, Skowhegan. And by KSW, Federal Credit Union, 222 College Avenue, Waterville.
Welcome to another edition of Kennebec Valley Forum. Today we're at the Red Barn in Augusta talking with Laura Benedict about her success and trials and tribulations of getting to that success. Morning, Laura.
Good morning.
Good to see you.
I'm glad you're here.
Yes, me too. Makes two of us. Talk to me a little bit about the history of how you started on this road to getting here and some of the trials and tribulations that you faced doing that.
Well, I started in 1977 as 11-year-old standing on a milk crate working for my brother. I was the kid sister, and he'd give me an ice cream cone at the end of the week, and we just...
Really?
Yeah.
A lot of pay.
Yeah, we just, we were a family business, and it was small, and it was just, it didn't have any seating, and he had left a job that, he had 4 kids.
Yeah, wow.
And he left a job to pursue the American dream.
Oh, wow.
And I, of course, was just doing what I was told back then.
Yeah.
And still do to some extent. But
yeah, right.
so and it started there in 1977, June 28th, and then 2, 3 people, 4 people, 5 people, and we hit the 80s, and again, it's hard to get a business off the ground.
Oh, big time.
This was the east side of the river, and
yeah.
It was just hard. Everybody turned right at the lights down Route 3 and never came through them, just a mile down the road. So it was tough, and we didn't really have a great idea about the taxes and the IRS and that stuff.
Yeah.
If you start getting behind, it's really hard to catch up.
Yes.
And so we floundered. We started floundering in 1977 and pretty much kept floundering for what was 30 some odd years.
Yep.
So I decided I could probably stop going to Thomas College year 3 of a computer information systems degree, I was horrible at that, and I'm so glad I did that.
Yeah.
And I came here in 1986 to run it for myself in October. I signed the papers, and I was owner of the Red Barn Incorporated, and I was so happy.
I bet you were.
I was so happy because I was sure that, of course I loved the place, and I loved to wait on people, but again, I didn't buy the part and parcel whereby, you had to do budgeting, and you had to payroll.
Right.
And I walked head on into another storm, just as my family did.
Yeah.
And I was in the hole as soon as I signed those papers.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Any business, generally, when you start out like that,
it takes forever.
A lot of
independence, and then, of course, the chain restaurants in Augusta started to grow, but never did grow. Over 19,000 people, but all these restaurants came in. And it was hard to do that. It was hard to stay relevant. And so we struggled. I struggled, and I was on the verge of bankruptcy. Oh God, 5 times.
Yeah.
And it was hard. To
get
in here, work harder,
yeah.
work longer, work harder. And that didn't pay the bills.
No.
So I had to struggle quite a bit.
Yeah, I can understand that. Being a business owner myself.
It's
starting out. It's really, really tough.
It is.
Yeah.
When people say, I'm going to leave my job in corporate America with the safety nets and insurance, I'm going to pursue that American dream, I go, oh boy.
Yeah.
Because if we weren't and I got to be honest with you, and this is just the truth, if I weren't as stupid as I was, I wouldn't be in business today. Because I just worked till I dropped and thought that would pay the bills, the old school, right?
Yep.
And my parents taught me the value of just hard work.
Absolutely.
And
that's the way it was.
Yeah, but you got to work a little bit with your head, too.
Yes, you do. You got to think smart.
Yeah, that was hard when you don't really have those tools. We weren't equipped for that.
No.
And you learn the hard way.
Yep, it's awful easy to look at something from the surface and not see the hidden cost behind it.
It's a tough industry.
Yes, it is.
Fresh seafood in Maine.
Yeah.
And it never got any easier.
No.
It was always a challenge. But you know what? I look forward to those challenges because I have learned the toughest lessons of all. If I said to Chad, I've made more $1 million mistakes than I think Bill Gates has.
Yeah.
It's been awful.
Yeah.
Awful. And when I wake up and go, why did I do that? And I walk head on into it again. Because my behavior didn't change. then you add everything else that I'm sure you're going to ask me about into the mix, and it gets real rocky.
Yeah, yeah, I can sympathize with that, having been in a mom and pop store I owned for 10 years, and it's just, I don't know how many times I faced bankruptcy and, come
It's
back out
scary.
eventually, but,
It's scary.
but you'd go home at night and say, is it worth it?
Yeah, well, I asked myself that because, when I turned off the lights, when I had lights,
Yeah,
I came in one morning, no water, no lights, no phone. I'd lost all of them.
wow,
IRS agent sitting in the parking lot. I hadn't even opened the door yet.
wow,
His name was Jeff Lewis, tall drink of water. I do hope he's watching this. It would be awesome if he were.
yeah,
And he was waiting to collect the money I didn't have.
yeah,
So, I couldn't even call somebody to say, stay home.
no,
And that's how bad it got for me. And
Yeah.
then I went and I hit the streets, not unlike my mother. I figured out a way to make promises I couldn't keep
yep,
and finagle.
yep,
It's about all it was. It's not the proudest thing I've ever done, but I had to keep those doors open. I had people besides myself I had to worry about.
yeah,
And then when you're not thinking of yourself, right? You're thinking
Right.
payroll.
that's fact.
You
And
know?
people's lives that are
People's
involved.
livelihoods, and
Yeah.
they're scared. If you're scared, they're scared. So I operated, honest to God, out of fear
Yeah.
for every reason under the sun. Fear that the weather's going to come and take away all my clam flats, or fear that people can't get out of their dooryards, and weather in Maine, and then you fear losing the power,
Oh, big
not
time.
making payroll, seeing Jeff Lewis again in your driveway,
Yep,
and you can only hide in the freezer from the IRS for so long.
that's right.
Before
They're
you
gonna
freeze
get you.
solid.
That's right. They're gonna come and get you.
And they will get you.
Yes, they
you
will.
know? And
Yeah.
it was difficult. So I made payment plans, and you don't mind if we record this, do you? And I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, those are things I'm not proud to admit.
Well, it's a part of life. It's a part of you
Yeah,
growing up.
I don't
and,
give
and
up.
Becoming. No, that's good.
I don't give up, and
No,
I
it-
will figure it out, and I will kill myself, and almost have.
Yeah. But that shows what you're willing to do to pursue that American dream. So many
Anything.
people want to do it, but don't have the tenacity to do it.
Right.
And I applaud you for being able to put your feet on the floor and say, I'm going to do it.
I'm fierce.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I'm fierce. I mean,
That's-
again, it
that's
may
a
not be
great
in
trait
all the
to
right
have.
directions, but when you harness that and you
Yeah.
finally figure out, oh, okay, that works. I'm hard-headed. I'm stubborn. I'm my
Yeah.
father's daughter.
Yeah,
But it's hard to forge your way when you're not really understanding where
That's-
you're going.
yeah. That's many a blind alley you go down, turn around, come
You
back.
got that right. Blind being the operative word.
Right.
Hallelujah,
Yeah.
heaven.
Yeah, you say, boy, this is a, no, it
This is
isn't.
another dead end.
That's right.
Oh boy!
Business
And then
is
I
full
didn't
of
even
those.
notice when it was. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, you slam into that wall at the dead end. I mean, 100 times and go, oh, up, I guess, is the
Yeah.
only option. You know,
That's right.
oh, it's terrible.
Yeah.
It's terrible. I mean, I just want people to know that based on what we know now, and but what had to happen.
Oh, big
What
time.
had to happen. So many places start, and I see, and I go, oh boy, I would love to be able to talk to you about what I can see happening.
Yes.
Because I've been there in business, and certainly for a young lady that I think I still am.
You are.
Learned a
No
lot of
question
lessons
about
the
that.
hard way, and I was like, oh, I would love to be able to be that catcher in the rye, that somewhat safety net for them, just
Oh.
to say, geez, you might want to, not go overboard, but geez, if you need somebody to talk to, if you feel lonely, when you're scared
Yeah,
about running a business and fearful of your employees and don't know what to do in order to make it right, give me a call.
yeah. That's
Give me a
an awesome reach out to
Yeah.
many businesses that going through the same dark tunnel, thinking
Lot of
that the light isn't a train.
No, it, you never know.
and you
For
better
me, it
call
always
before,
was.
Yeah, before it gets too late, call
Yeah.
somebody that's with
Yeah.
some experience and can lead you
Well,
through
you
that.
feel
That's great of
lonely.
you to do that.
You feel lonely. You
Yeah.
feel like you're the only one. You're embarrassed.
Yeah,
I was embarrassed and ashamed, and I felt ridiculous because I was working 20 hours a day for nothing,
right.
and I was losing money every day that I worked, and I was like, and I got to be honest with you, I am smarter than that.
Yeah,
And I just walked away from a degree at Thomas College, and this is what I've settled for.
Yeah.
And it was just that I gave up, or tried to. Let's
Yeah.
put it that way. I went to bed giving up.
Yeah.
And then I woke up and went, there's that 1/1000000000 of 1% of me that thinks she can still do this.
Yes.
And
Thank God for that.
I listened.
Yes. That's
And I
good.
didn't know how or why,
Yeah.
but I knew I was going to do it.
That's fantastic.
And-
When did you know that you had
Turn the corner.
turned the corner, was breaking even?
Well, I don't know if I'm even there yet,
Oh,
to be
okay.
honest with you.
Yeah.
I started to turn the corner 2009, kicked us
Yeah.
completely out of the park. I was dead in the water. I was absolutely dead in the water, like everybody.
Yeah.
So I just felt that my customers were waiting. There was complete panic, and the stock market was plummeting, and we'd had another crash, not unlike 1929. And I'm like, this is the last thing I needed.
Right.
So I was closing the doors
Yeah.
in December of 2009. Of course,
Yeah.
December 2010, because 9
Yeah.
had already happened. So I was closing the doors, and there was no Facebook, there was no social media,
Nope.
and I was feeling, oh my God, I was just exhausted.
Yeah.
And I said, I gave it a run. If nothing else, at least I tried.
You had a good run.
I tried.
Yeah.
So I was giving up after owning it in 86, being here for 33 years. I was writing, I'm sorry, but the Red Barn has to close, literally, on Facebook. Didn't know how to turn the thing on, dark screen. Figured out how to turn it on, and I started typing
Yeah.
with 3 likes on Facebook. I mean, I didn't even know what a like was, right? Didn't know
Yeah.
what Facebook was. MySpace was all the rage, and I just started to type it, and then there was a knock at the door, and it was
Was there?
freezing rain, snow, sleet. 4-day weekend. The governor told everybody to stay home. I'm like, oh my God, it couldn't get any worse.
Yeah.
So no phone, but I did have power. And I answered the door, and it was a delivery, a food delivery. So he said, can I bring it in? And I'm like, yeah. So we brought the delivery, and it was as plain as day, cash only on the top of the slip. I mean, the letters were block letters this big. Not check, cash. Not COD, check on delivery.
Wow.
Cash.
Yeah.
So anyway, he hands me the slip for me to sign, and I'm staring at this cash only, and I'm looking at him past his shoulder to see all this food, $2,000, $2,143 to be exact.
Wow.
And I signed it, and I watched him walk out the door, and I went, click. I don't believe I have this food. Click, and I watch him, and he drives away, and I said, oh my God, because he's going to come back, right?
Yeah.
Click, 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 click. I put it all away, and I left. I mean, I'm not proud to say this, right? So
Yeah.
I got this $2,143 worth of food. So this is a Friday, snowy weekend. Everybody stay home, save yourselves, right?
Yeah.
And then I opened that Monday, and I said, with awful letters on the sign, all broken up, I was making H's out of 8s and stuff like that. I mean, terrible,
Yeah.
terrible.
Yeah.
It's embarrassing to admit. So I put free food Monday from 4 to 6. Free food. Come donations only. Whoever got here first,
Yeah.
I would donate to this organization. I mean, tell me about it. It was hard to even decipher with the letters.
Yeah.
So I put it out there, and these kids started rolling in. I'm going, where are these kids coming from? What is going on? They all have blue shirts on. And it was St. Michael's grade 6.
Oh,
And they
yeah.
all came. They wanted to pay for a bus trip to Boston. So they all came. Parents came. A lot of support, which I didn't know anything about
Right.
this school. All these parents came, and they started dumping money into this bucket. And all my food was gone, but I got it anyway for free. I never expected it,
Yeah.
right? And all this money, and it was thousands of dollars. I just gave this bucket full of money to these wide-eyed kids that are crying, and they're so happy, and the bus is paid for, and the gas and everything to go for this trip. And I watched everybody scour tables and clean up and love each other and hug and cry all the way out the door. And I went, how do I do that again?
Yeah.
Best publicity in the world. And then everybody started calling the Red Barn. My phone was back on the hook, right? I got my power back. Everybody started calling. Can we be on your agenda for Monday? You're going to give free food again, donations only. So I again made some more promises I couldn't keep.
Yeah.
Tried to find that man that delivered the food the first time. Come to find out, he hadn't really been able to read English that well, or didn't see the cash only on the slip or something. I couldn't imagine he missed it. So I tried to find him again. I mean, I'm shameless, right? Tried to get free food again because, I mean, I was already $2 million in debt. What difference did another 2143 make?
Right.
And that's how you had to look at it.
Yeah.
So when I answer your question in a roundabout way,
Yeah.
how did I turn that? By giving back to the community.
Yeah. That's
And
amazing.
An innovative way, not a pancake breakfast, 10% of the proceeds. It was all of it.
Wow.
And they gave $20, $30 for a chicken snack.
Yeah.
I mean, now, it doesn't happen all the time. Certainly now
No,
I know
no.
what I'm doing. But back then, I couldn't believe what people were willing to give in order to be able to give back.
Right.
So they gave, the corporation gave
Yeah.
to me. Little did they know, I gave, and then they gave.
Yeah.
So it was giving like 3 times, and I watched it all happen. And I sat there in the dark dining room again with a computer screen, and I went, why don't we try that again? And then the phone started ringing, and the hits on Facebook, and the likes started to build.
Yeah.
And I could just see that there was instant, I had one last breath left in me, and I felt like I could exhale.
Yeah.
And then it started to just really, I mean, it was exponential. Nobody's ever done that before.
No.
I am my father's daughter.
Yeah, there
I mean,
you
he
go.
had no problems dressing up like a bunny and hopping
Yeah.
up and down the sidewalks of downtown Augusta to sell what do you call them? Those little jelly beans.
Yeah.
And he got the most jelly bean sales of anybody at the Kresge Corporation because he was foolish. I mean,
Yeah.
he'd do anything in order to make a sale. So I'm thinking to myself, my mother always did say I was like my dad.
Yeah.
She
there
said, you
go.
think a little differently than most.
And that's
So then I
good.
started to utilize that marketing end of things and just try to do things a little bit differently and see and keep my finger on the pulse of the community and the people, and we built on that. So effective December 2010 is when things started to change. Of course, I
Wow.
had to dig myself out. Of course, I had to see my IRS agent every week.
Yeah.
Of course, I had to, try to reverse those bankruptcy proceedings. I mean, all that costs money.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And get the ship righted.
Yeah.
And then turn around and start. So that's where it started.
That's good.
And
You're
we've
still
been building-
giving to the community.
Oh yeah. Well, of course, I
That's
can prove it works.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, you have to be careful, and I've gone the other way, all or nothing type of gal, like my
Yeah.
dad. Bigger
Yeah.
is better.
Yeah.
So I went the other way. So I started to dig myself back out, and then gave too much, and worked right back into another $2 million in debt.
Yeah.
Took me 5 years to go from one to the other, back to the other again.
Yeah.
That's why. So I'm still digging out.
Yeah.
But I'm smarter than I was. So I
Yep,
know it won't
that's
be
a lot
that
of
long. I mean,
Yep.
because it works. I can prove what works now instead of what doesn't.
Yeah.
So,
I always said in my first 2 years in business, I paid enough to get a college degree.
Oh,
And then
yes.
some.
I gave up a college degree to
Yep.
pay 10 times that.
Yeah. And it does become worthwhile after a fashion. And when you get so you can come in the door and, you're probably going to break even or, it
I'll
may
figure
not
out
be
how
making-
to. I'll figure out how to run it. This is what I say to my brother every morning. This is my list for today. We go through these brainstormings every morning, even on our day off like today. And I sit down with my brother and say, how can we try harder today?
Yeah.
How do we stay ahead of the learning curve?
Right.
How do we stay harder? How do we keep that niche that we've carved even deeper today? And we don't just say, oh, this is good enough. It's a busy place. We don't. No.
Yeah.
In fact, that's where my father's daughter comes in, and he's his father's son. Is that we keep trying to do better
Right.
and to think smarter. And it's pretty hard to pull the wool over my eyes now
Yeah.
because it's hard to think I'm smiling doesn't mean I'm not thinking.
That's right. That's
And
This
you
is
just
true.
have to figure out how to learn best from your mistakes.
Yeah.
So now I got to be honest with you, and I'm positive about that. I have more victories ahead of me than battles behind me,
Yeah.
and that's how I look at life now.
Yeah.
Is because
That's
it's
a good way
finally
to look at it.
becoming worth doing
Yeah.
exactly what you love. Because doing what you love doesn't always pay the bills.
No.
Very
But it isn't
rarely.
work either.
But it isn't work.
Yeah.
So if you can find that balance between doing what you love that isn't really work, that might pay the bills, and more importantly, can resonate with people and actually to some extent help people,
Sure.
that's pretty rewarding.
We've touched a little bit on the giving side,
Right,
and I know you've got some national recognition here.
right.
You've gone from 0 to 600 miles an hour here in about a year and a half, 2
Yes,
years or
yes.
so. And how you started out with that by giving, as you said, the food and stuff, and now you're donating a lot and raising money for a lot of charities and a lot of things. How is that? I know it evolved to that, but you've grown it. to
How
the
did it
point-
go from 0 to 600? Let me answer that question for you. And again, this isn't something I'm proud to admit. December 12th, 2014, I entered rehab And
Yeah.
mercifully, I was here in the Augusta Hospital, which is lovely, by the way. And I was feeling real bad because I'd once again sabotaged myself.
Yeah.
So I was having issues with drinking and didn't realize until December 11th of 2014 that I had a problem. Okay, that's the problem, right?
Yes,
You know,
yes,
the
yes.
big problem is when you don't know you have a problem.
That's right.
So for 30 years, I
Yeah.
didn't realize I had a problem, and my body was always very resilient, and we have great genes, and I was still highly functioning
Yeah.
until my world just collapsed, and I sat at home, and I realized after having gone out, joined every board, smiled, donated to every charity, and giving people the impression I had it all.
Yeah.
All I had, really, when I got home was a drinking problem.
Yeah.
So I had created this person after having had $2 million I didn't have that I worked so hard to get back. I wasted it, not wasted, but I just blew it.
Yeah.
So I had a drinking problem, and I sat there and I went, now I've created this person people think I am.
Yeah.
Now what do I do? Because that's not me. I know what I'm not, and that is it.
Right.
So I went, oh no. So I sat there at December 11th and I made a phone call and I said, I need to go get some help. It had to be my choice though.
Oh, sure does. It sure does.
So I went and I got some help.
Yeah.
And I put on Facebook, my name is Laura. I'm an alcoholic. I need help. Because everybody thought it was a joke, right? This is the gal with the skinny girl jeans out there spending tons of money.
Yeah.
Smiling all the time, acting like she's got it, the whole world. Everybody was envious, right? So no.
No.
So I wouldn't have advised anybody doing this, but I put it very out there in a very public way, saying you're not going to see me for a while. I'm going to go into rehab. So let me go back to your question.
Yeah.
If, honest to God, and I'm not proud to admit this, if I could have leapt out of that third-story window at Maine General in Augusta, the only reason I didn't is because it wasn't high enough.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's how bad I felt.
Yeah.
And I had those socks on that were anti-skid, and I had Indian style sitting with my head in my hands, and doctors were coming in saying, you need to listen, or you'll end up back here or worse. And I wouldn't listen, just like I wouldn't listen how to run the business. I wouldn't listen to somebody tell me how to run my life. They've seen 1,000, 1,000,000 of me, and I think I'm the only one.
Yeah.
I think I'm the only person that has blown it big time. I think I'm the only person that pretended to be somebody I wasn't. I'm thinking I'm the only person that has an addiction that she wants to keep so secret, and it's the most shameful thing in the world. I think I'm the only one. Well,
Yeah.
let me tell you, I realized I was one of many.
That's right.
So once I got that through my head, if you were to fast forward 2 years to the day, December 2016, I get a letter in the mail from the White House from Obama saying, thank you for all you've done for your community. 2 years to the day, I wanted to jump out the window, but it wasn't high enough.
Yeah.
To Obama, the only leader of the free world. How did that happen?
Right.
Answer your question again.
Yeah.
I had to relinquish what I thought I knew.
Mm-hmm.
I had to stop thinking like I had answers. And I'll be honest with you. I relinquished to, and it can be anything you want it to be, I relinquished to something way bigger than me. And I said, I need help.
Yeah.
And I will listen, I promise you. Talk about humbling.
Yes.
And I started to follow instead of lead, and listen to people that have been there. Go to meetings. Go to the churches and the elderlies and
Right.
the nursing homes and the veterans' homes, and listen to people that know as much, way more than I do. I've never been 94 before.
Yeah.
So I listened. I relinquished,
Yeah.
and I listened to people, and I absorbed what they had to say, and I changed what I thought I knew into what I don't know.
Yeah.
Isn't that something?
It is.
It's a pretty
It
big
really
leap.
is. Yes, it is. I'm just marvelous at, marveling, I should say, at what you've accomplished. It's just amazing. And
It's pretty interesting.
why seafood?
Oh God, well, that's the problem. If it could be just chicken, it would be.
Yeah.
Because that's something that doesn't go bonkers in price. You know, chickens, you know. So we started with seafood, chicken, and then expanded the menu. And now, you know, I mean, let's face it, Clams are weather determined.
Yeah.
Shrimp is weather determined if it's available at all, government regulations, and then on and on and on. That's the part of this job that never gets easier. I, however, have the same purveyors for 40 years,
Wow.
and I don't go to fly-by-nights, and I don't do this, which of course we've all done that, right?
Oh,
Somebody
yes,
comes
that's
in and
another
says,
blind alley.
"Oh, I dig my own clams, don't you worry," you know? And then they go on a bender and you don't see them on the 4th of July, you know?
That's right.
So I've not done that.
No.
But it's tempting.
Yeah.
So I didn't make that mistake. So quality of the
Good.
food, the only thing in my life I haven't compromised is the quality of the food.
I know, it's wonderful.
And it
really
has
is.
to be that way. And I'm so
Yeah.
proud to be able to say that with the biggest smile in the world, because
Yes.
that's the first thing people compromise.
Yeah.
Is they have to try to save money. And that's the one thing that my customers, all the stories that I've told, all the ugliness that I've admitted to, that's the one thing I can smile about and say, I knew enough at least not to do that.
Yep. Yeah, that's
And that's
number
not
one.
easy.
There's no question about it.
And it's very difficult.
Yeah.
In fact, the phone rings off the hook on a Monday to secure the seafood for the week. This time of year with heavy snow,
Yeah.
I mean an overly hot May, June that takes humidity through the roof, followed
Oh,
by
big
rain.
time.
There's so much that you can't control. But
That's-
one thing again,
Yeah.
this is why I'm smiling. I'm not bothering to worry about the things I can't control. Now, how
There you go. That's life. That's a good
That's
way
what
to
I've
look at
learned. How on earth can you? I would worry about everything. The fearful part of running the business, I would worry about everything and go, why am I doing this? But I couldn't not. Now, not that it's easy. You know, I am not going to stop a nor'easter.
No, no.
No matter how hard I worry
No, no.
and lose sleep
It's
and
true.
eat at midnight and drink myself into a coma, it's still going to happen, isn't
Yeah.
it?
Change the things you can change and don't worry about the things you can't change.
Yes.
That's the success of life.
I think so.
Yeah.
And when you
agree
start,
with
it's
you.
impossible to unlearn.
Yeah.
That's the best part. When you start, it goes, oh, it feels so good. I felt like I could breathe again.
Yeah.
And now I'm just waiting for the next thing. When I wake up, honest to God, I watched people toast champagne New Year's Eve. And I saw those bubbles and I saw those glasses that were all cool. You could see how cold it was. And I didn't want that one bit. I had a spoonful of Haagen-Dazs and I went, I'm just happy to toast this.
There you go.
And I had my Haagen-Dazs and I smiled. And I didn't watch the ball drop because I didn't have to. My New Year's was going to keep on keeping on.
I'm with you.
And
on
I
that
came
one.
in here in 2017 and I said, what's in store for me today? You can't make things like NBC Evening News with Lester Holt happen.
No.
They just have to happen.
Yep.
Don't wake up and say, boy, I bet you this is going to happen today. I just go, what's in store for me today? And then great things come in your way.
They
or
will.
not.
They
or
will.
not.
They will. They
Either
will.
way, it's great to be
Yeah.
here, right?
Yeah.
I'm not talking to you for no reason.
Yeah. Well, that's a good thing.
See? Think about it. And then you show up to work and you go, you know, I still have payroll and I still have IRS and I still have my accountant that has to make sense of what I do. And I still have my donations and I still have a million requests that I can't fill, that I have to siphon through. And I answer every one of those myself.
Yep.
And I have to be that person. Then I'm going to read to 6-year-old people at Hussey on the 24th of January.
Oh,
And I'm
yes.
going to go to a mid-Main chamber breakfast. I'm going to go, and people say to me, how do you have time to do that? And I have time. Let's face it, I spend a lot of time doing the wrong thing.
Yep.
I have more time to do the right thing than I think I ever could have imagined. And run a $6 million business
Yeah.
with 38 people on the payroll. How do you have time to listen to every veteran's story in the dining room? You know, things like this don't happen for a reason. my
That's
friend.
right.
They don't
That's
happen for no reason.
That's right.
You're listening.
Oh, yeah.
And they love the fact that somebody's actually taking the time to listen.
Yeah.
To listen. And that's the secret. Another one. See,
Yeah.
I'm learning these secrets. I'm
Yeah.
just uncovering every one of them. And I'm learning them by listening to people that have run the gamut, that have been through so much, that have so much to be thankful for.
Right.
And money isn't any one of those things.
No.
Everything that I've learned is about the things that are things that money can't buy. Lady says to me, 94 years old, her name is Faith. I love that name. She says, you know what? How old are you? I said, 51. She goes, yeah, I wish I knew at my age what you know at your age, she says.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
I said, well, Faith, I'm learning, honey.
Yep.
I learned so much from you.
Yeah.
She joined the Marines in 1942. She joined the Marines in 1942. Really?
Yeah.
Tell me about that story. You don't think I got a lot to learn from a lady like that? Maybe you learn in proportion to how much you listen.
Yeah.
And care.
That's absolutely
Because
right.
without my customers, we wouldn't be having this video. Without my customers, I would be doing what I don't love. Guaranteed.
Yeah.
And who knows? Maybe that opens more doors in order to keep resonating with people.
I'm sure it will.
I think
I'm sure
so.
it will.
I think so. My dream, honest to God, this is something, my dream. I go into the new hospital, right? I bring food for the lovely gentlemen and ladies that open the door, and, I bring
Sure.
food for everybody down there, right? So I go in. My dream is to be one of those volunteer workers in the blue vest.
Yeah.
And I go, I want to do that so badly. When I grow up, I want to be just that person, just to wait, to not necessarily have an agenda that does demand a lot of you.
Right.
Like right now. And I
Yes.
mean, don't get me wrong, I love it. I love a challenge.
Yeah.
I would love to be able to get up one day and go, I want to be able to help people, and I want to be able to do it on my terms, when I want and how much I want. And volunteering and community service is absolutely what set me on the straight and narrow, saved my life.
Yeah. I've always had a philosophy that what you give, you'll get back.
Oh, there's no doubt, and tenfold probably.
Yep.
Probably.
It's something that you do in life. You get out of the community, you give back to the community, and you get more back from the community. So you give more to the community. So it's a growing thing that happens, and you find eventually that you're doing so much more for the community than you ever realized
It's
that you
exponential.
could. Yeah.
See, because
Really
what
is.
my therapist says to me, she stopped writing, which is a feat and a half, I'll tell you right now.
Yeah.
She never stops writing.
Yeah.
So she looks at me over her glasses and she says, you know what you're magnificent at? I said, what's that? I've rarely been told that. What's that? Como all ears, right? She said, you're magnificent. Masterful, in fact, at helping people help people.
Right.
So I said, well, I do agree with that.
Yeah.
I don't take a compliment very, very well sometimes, but I did readily agree with that because I'm learning that not helping myself is the way to help others
That's
and
right.
me.
That's right.
Then thinking of myself, well, it's hard to do. How do you not think of yourself when you're afraid of drowning every minute of the day? You really
Right.
think I'm going to go throw a life jacket to somebody else while I drown? That didn't make sense to me. But if you look at it a little differently, why are you drowning?
Yeah.
Because you didn't help somebody.
That's right.
And that's how I look at life, very, very differently.
Yes.
So if I help somebody, then that somebody will help somebody, and that's where that goes from 0 to 600 that you were talking about. I can answer that question by knowing that helping one person made that 0 to 600. So we have this, what I consider a snowball effect. People come in here
Yeah.
for the experience.
Oh, absolutely.
Any more so than than as well as the food, but more so than I think anything else.
Yep.
And I'm right there to provide that.
You've become a social destination.
Nice, a social destination. I like that
Yeah.
because
You really
very
have.
few places can do that.
That's right.
Very few places buy one get one. 2 for $19.99, and I've done that.
Yeah.
I've made that mistake, but not that that's always a mistake. But for me, it was a mistake. I don't think that that's what people really want. I don't think that's what people really want.
No.
People want somebody that notice. They notice. I noticed the little things. You know what? I could have told you were going to have strong black coffee today.
You could have.
Yeah.
Well, isn't that
Because-
amazing?
Because let me tell you. Can I tell a story? Let me
Yeah.
tell you. I was supposed to be off that day. I'd made plans. I was called in. I'm always available. So I come running in late because I was called in late, 11:40 or so. At the exact moment, I go running out because there was something that was in front of the door. Somebody had spilled a shake. So I wasn't even supposed to be here. So I open up the door and I'm getting the shake off with some hot water. Gentleman comes out, he pulls right up here, New Hampshire plates. He gets out and he's staring at me. And he goes like this, right? He's been driving for a few hours. So I got this shake. I'm not supposed to be here. I'm out there, not behind the grill. And I go like this, and I looked at him, and he turned around. Nice car, successful. And he reached in and he got a briefcase, and he's a salesman of sorts. He turned around and he bent down to get something out of this very nice car, and his shirt didn't have a wrinkle in it. How is that possible? So I said to him, I'm holding the door open, lady with 2 dish rags, right? I got an apron on and a dirty hat. My knees are dirty. I've been cleaning the mop boards and stuff. So I said, you know, there's nothing better than a man in a beautiful shirt. That is a mighty fine shirt, my friend. So he looks at me like I'm crazy.
Yeah.
It's like, okay.
Yeah.
And I smiled and I watched him walk in, because I sometimes do get that kind of a response, because nobody does that anymore.
Right.
So he doesn't know anything about me. So he goes in and he sits in this booth over here. And that shirt was something I couldn't take. He's got those blue eyes just like you, and this beautiful. He was just so beautiful. So he sat down and he's got his newspaper and he keeps looking. And I went around this dining room like I do. I'm hugging on people and making sure that this gentleman who has a really bad leg doesn't get up and leave without me.
Yep.
And I go around. So he apparently was watching. And he says to me, excuse me. So I go over, come to find out his name is Don. I said, how you doing, my friend? He said, you really like this, aren't you? I said, I am. He said, no, you really like that. I said, yeah, I am. He said, I said, you haven't had my seafood stew yet. You think you love me now. You better watch that
That's
stew, right?
right.
So he has a cup of seafood stew, compliments me, and he's staring, and he can't quite get it. And I said, he said, you want to know the story about my shirt? I said, I'd love to know the story about your shirt. He said, this is my wife's favorite shirt. I said, well, she's got mighty fine taste, I'll tell you.
Yeah.
Mighty fine taste, I'll tell you that right now. So I go like this, and I said, well, you tell her that the other woman in your life noticed that shirt. And he said, she passed away 2 weeks ago.
Oh, wow.
And it's the first time I've worn this shirt, and it reminds me of her every day.
Yeah.
What are the odds
that
I was here that day, that I was at the front door, that I noticed a shirt? There are thousands of shirts that come in here every day.
Right.
So I went,
yeah.
Well, you have a friend in me. And I walked away. I had a lump in my throat so big I couldn't even stand it.
Yeah.
And I started to cry.
Yeah.
Because that's what I'm talking about. The spirit, the bigger than any of us thing that draws us to people. That lets you know that something's up.
Yeah.
In a good way.
Yeah.
I don't pry. I just have for my customers especially, I seem to have that, I'm here if you need me type.
Yep.
And I walk away and, and then they'll always say, 100% of the time, I drove all the way here from Auburn and then there's another story.
Yeah.
And I have millions of them.
Sure.
So when Chad says to me, this interview, we don't want you to keep, if you have to repeat it, I'm like, honey, I got millions of stories.
Yeah.
Because my customers come in order to tell me that. I get customers and gentlemen and people outside in the grocery line that tell me things they haven't even told their spouses yet.
Yeah.
And not because I'm nosy, but because they know that it's a soft place to fall.
There are a few people in this world that you feel comfortable and you automatically tell them everything. It's amazing.
Older people didn't get old by being...
Yeah, but I see even young people, there's some people that you just automatically open up to.
No
and
judging,
talk to.
trust me.
There's no judging, there's no...
I've been judged,
anything.
I can't stand it, I've been bullied, I've been homeless, I've lost everything, I've been through divorce, I've been there.
Yeah.
And not to say that I've been through some of what a lot of other people have been through, but I can always relate to pretty much anybody.
Yeah.
On many, many levels. I mean, I've never served at the Battle of the Bulge.
Yep.
But when a gentleman tells me his stories that he hasn't told anybody in 76 years, I'm going to listen.
Yeah, absolutely. My father always told me that I could never learn anything as long as I kept talking.
Yeah, a lot of people are like
And
that.
he was right.
I was like that.
Yeah.
And then when you realize they're right, you hope they're around to say, you're right.
Yeah.
And if not, like you say, my mother finally said before she took her last breath, now you're more like me. Because she always said, you're just like your father. She married him king and queen of the prom, right?
Yeah.
60 years old,
Yes.
blissful, right?
Yeah.
I mean, handsome, beautiful.
Yeah.
And then life gets in the way and 10
Oh, sure
kids
it does.
later and,
Yeah.
things get a
things
little
happen.
rocky. And she would always say, "You're just like your father." And she only meant it because she was in love with him.
Yeah.
I mean, ferociously.
Yeah.
And I was.
Yeah.
And then by the time she died in 2011, she could see that I was softening. And then I was starting to go, okay, life, why don't you tell me what to do next instead
You
of...
got it. Instead of trying to run it.
Yeah. So she was able to see that 2009-10, December 10th, 2010 turnaround. She only lived 6 more months in order to see that start to happen.
But it was what she needed to do.
She's watching.
Yeah.
She's watching. I've got her eyes, I've got her smile.
Yeah.
And I
there
said,
you
I'm
go.
always smiling because when I think about my mother, I smile.
There you
So
go.
there. So that guy
Yeah.
says to me, honest to God, says to me, I'm going to give you $1. Let me tell you one thing about the Benedict family. We never refuse money. Ever.
Mm-hmm.
So he says, let me give you $1, right? So I said, okay, give me $1. And then we're joking back and forth. And he said, I'll give you $1 if you stop smiling. I said, keep your money. I'm never going to do that,
No,
right?
that
He
is
said, I'm
not
not going to
happening.
start 2017
Yeah.
out. I hugged every single person
Yeah.
and welcomed them to a new year
Yeah.
and a new beginning and new possibilities. And
It's a great thing for business. It's a great thing for you as a personal
sure is.
thing. Yeah.
Feeds everybody,
Very good.
literally, figuratively.
It does. Yeah.
It feeds
If
you.
you smile, somebody else is going to smile back at
It's
you.
impossible not to,
Right?
you know? And I understand that. It doesn't cost any money. And I'm like, oh my God, I was spending all this money and writing one big check to one organization instead of 10 little ones to people that, you know. And I was just, my thought process was all wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to make a splash, but I was doing it in all the wrong ponds.
Yeah.
Now you do little things and then people will help you.
Right.
And that ripple, that drop turns into an ocean.
Right. It sure does.
Of a babbling brook. And I'm like,
Yeah.
oh my God, see, now I'll be honest with you. 2 years ago, I'd have laughed in your face if I'd have been hearing what I'm saying now.
Yeah. Yeah. There you go.
You know, I wouldn't have listened to me then either.
No.
So if I start to say something to somebody on my payroll or somebody in my family or one of my friends, I can tell if they're listening. And I
Sure.
can tell if they're going to listen to what I have to say. And I can tell if I'm wasting my breath.
Yeah.
And I just, well, you know what? I wouldn't have listened to me either. So you're probably going to have to figure that one out for yourself.
Yeah.
And that's part of the things I can't control thing
Yeah.
that you know, I liken what I'm doing now to having, you know, like Dorothy in the balloon and cutting off these sandbags.
Sure.
And then pretty soon you can float.
Yes.
I only got a
absolutely.
couple more sandbags left.
There you go.
And I know what they are now instead
Yeah.
of being blindsided.
Yeah.
You got to be cautious.
Yeah.
Because I have a heart that leads.
Yep.
That's what I do, and I don't want to stop that. It just
No.
needs to be led with the brain maybe a close second.
You never want to harness that inner child either.
No.
You
I learn a
don't want
lot
to.
from kids.
Yes.
I learned a lot from
Absolutely.
kids.
Yep.
Unbelievable.
Yep. They're pretty honest, pretty
Mm-hmm.
straightforward most of the time.
Little boy's
That-
name is
that-
Ian. He comes in, he's helping for food pantry benefit. He's all over the place. He's under the tables getting ketchup packets and oyster crackers, and he's sweeping with the wrong side of the broom, but he's trying.
Yeah.
I go up to him, I'm marveling, and I said, Ian, you know what? I want to give you something. I gave him a Red Bond Cares bracelet, little teeny purple one, purple or red. He said, purple. So I take purple, it says Red Bond Cares in red letters. And I said to him, Ian, put this on. Nobody else has one. Okay? Just got him in. Put this on. You know what? You're going to be a superhero. He said, I am? Yes. That's going to give you superhero powers. He goes, oh my God. He looks at me like this. I gave him a big hug and I walked out. 2 days later, his mother's at the counter. I vaguely remember his mother because I had my eyes on this kid.
Yeah.
So I said, can I help you? And she said, you're Laura, right? I said, I am. Weren't you here for benefit? She said, yeah. My son is Ian. I said, oh, hi. How can I help you?
Yeah. Yeah.
She goes, you told him he had superpowers? I said, I sure did. She said he tried to jump off his bunk beds this morning thinking he could fly.
Yeah. There you go.
I said, sorry about that.
Yeah.
And she burst out laughing and she walked out the door. I learned from Ian that day.
Yeah.
I learned from him.
Sure.
He can fly.
Yeah.
Maybe not off his bunk bed,
No.
but he can fly.
Yeah.
See,
A
you
lot
learn
of times,
from those
all
things.
a lot of times, all they need is a little encouragement to
Yeah.
go forward.
Yeah, imagine the possibilities.
Yeah.
You know, if you can transport someone, even for a couple of minutes, by saying, "Tell me about your wife."
Yeah.
Instead of 63 years, she was by your side, and now she isn't.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Tell me about when you first met.
Yeah.
The first flowers you gave her. Tell me about that.
Yeah.
I gave flowers away, and I will again this Valentine's Day. I gave out, oh God, I don't know, 200 dozen roses.
Yeah.
Everybody over 70 took a red rose. Everybody
Yes.
under 70 took a purple rose.
Yeah.
And I gave more roses to men than women.
Is that right?
They wanted it,
Yeah.
which I didn't anticipate. And every single person that smelled that rose got lost in reverie for 5 seconds.
Oh, yes.
Could just tell by the way that they smelled it, and then they held it in, and then reality hits again. But
Sure.
at least for 5 seconds, your
Yeah.
husband wasn't dying. Your
Right.
mother is with you again. That first kiss just
Yeah.
feels like that first kiss. At least for 5 seconds. That's why I can't save people.
No.
I can't
understand.
stop the snow, and I can't make people on my payroll or friends or family listen to anything I have to say.
Right.
But I can take at least one moment and go, at least for 5 seconds.
Right.
You were transported.
Yeah.
I like those feelings. Ian transported me.
Yeah.
You know, I felt like a superhero.
Yeah.
I noticed him, didn't I?
Yeah.
Noticed those
That's
little
what
things.
that's what kids are all about.
Kids.
Yeah.
And I go from Ian to my nursing homes and
Sure.
talking
Great.
about Wiener Schnitzel.
You have a great life. You know
I do
that.
have a great life.
Yes, you do.
And I have time for everything important. And I want to be able to keep, not just saying, oh, that's good enough. I want to keep going because there's so much out there.
And you
There's
will.
so much hope and so much levity, and there's so many kind people that maybe not get enough recognition. Maybe this, what's happening here, because I know the audience.
Right.
I know who's watching.
Do you?
Oh, yes. Because that's important. People want to stay. It's hard for somebody that's in their 80s and 90s to have a lot of hope nowadays for what they see happening
Right.
on many levels. And I understand that. But I think that there's a lot more of us in them than they realize.
Yes.
I really believe that.
Sometimes you think you're an island and you find out there's a big ocean.
Do you know somebody that has a problem? Do you know somebody? Let me ask you this question. When you're in
Who's
your
doing the
own
interview
depths,
here?
yeah, think about it. Do you know somebody that has a problem?
Oh, sure.
Do you know somebody that's suffering? Do you know somebody that has this? Are you related to somebody who may have an addiction or two? I mean, when you stop to realize that everybody's in the same boat, when we're isolating ourselves because we think, and again, that's a mindset that I am adamant about changing
Yes.
because there's so much more safety in numbers.
Yes, there is.
That's why I get people coming in telling me their deepest, darkest secrets and then leaving going, I feel like I'm floating when
Yeah.
I leave.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
walk out the door. I've had so many people walk out the door and just look up and shake their heads, and I'm going, I hope that's a good one.
Yeah.
You could just tell.
Yeah.
That's something.
That's good. You got a special knack for that.
Well, because people are important.
It's kind of hard to tie that into business.
It's easier than it's ever been.
Yeah, I bet it is since you've changed a lot.
I go and meet with
stuff.
salesmen
Yeah.
from big companies to say, how do we keep things fresh?
How do you actually select the charities that you're going to work for?
We have an application online, and thousands of people apply. And I open it in May and I close it in October because my busy season, the benefits just can't happen. I can't
Right.
give it the attention that they deserve. So I start the first Tuesday in October, and we go. So I do 40 or 50, and then more importantly, I do time-sensitive events like this Mr. Nick Tyler, who was tragically had a heart attack at home, 4 kids, house fires, things that happen this time of year.
Yeah.
And then I'll put those on the agenda as well, and a lot of promotions on Facebook. So the selection process is in 2 stages because I will select, and it isn't easy.
No,
It's not
with so
easy.
many
That's probably the
applicants,
hardest part of
yeah.
this job is trying to be fair.
Mhm.
And, I'll select and alternate project graduations and, C&I dogs for people that are handicapped and stuff. And it's just like, it's really hard for me because I have to know what's going to actually work
Right.
for the business, for the people that we're saving money. I mean, if you're from Utah and you have a family member, it's probably not going to resonate here
Right.
in Augusta, Maine.
Right.
So it's twofold, really.
Mhm.
Like I have to put a benefit on that will bring business, that will bring people, that will bring more money,
Yes.
or I just give the money I would make away with the business I would ordinarily just do. So that I would go broke real fast if I did that. So I solicit the help. I solicit the fact that these people need to promote it. You got to work for your money.
Yes.
And if I don't see where that's going to happen, then I have to move on to the next. And it's pretty arduous.
So,
And I don't love it. That's not the part that I love, because I would like to help everybody. But I have to figure the business in here too.
right.
You know, I mean,
That's right.
everybody has, on my payroll, has college educations and braces and trips to Belize, and they have lives they have to continue to keep, and I have to have that in mind.
Sure. Walk me through an application process, if you would.
The process is, it's pretty involved, and I can see who wants to be involved and who doesn't. So that helps.
Yeah.
You know, you've got to say what it is. You've got to say what it pertains to, and you've got to tell me in a nice write up. You know what it is that you need. It's it's a 1 or 2 page thing, and it's something that helps me better gauge. If you don't want to say too much about what it is that you want, then I'm probably gonna find somebody who can be more specific.
Right.
You know.
Yes.
So
you got to know. You've got to know.
You have to try.
Yes.
If I see people or an organization or something that thinks, oh, by the way, you did it last year, I'd just like to be on the agenda again. And, well, that's not necessarily always the case.
Right.
So I just, it's hard. That's the hardest part of this job. I'll work 20 hours in the kitchen. I'll be behind the fryer-laters. I'll sweat in 118-degree. The hardest part of this job is saying no to people. And I think people understand that I have a soft heart. And I get a lot of requests. I'll tell you what, my email blew up on NBC Evening News. A lot of requests.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Because I wasn't one bit surprised. That makes it even more difficult. I'm a kind person. That I believe people when they say things to me.
Sure.
And that hasn't always worked to my advantage. I'm
No,
more careful
I can
than I used to
understand.
be.
Yeah, there you
and
go.
I solicit other people's advice, and I
Yeah.
delegate my jobs better than I ever have. You know, can you handle the seafood ordering this
Yeah.
week? Can you do the scheduling this week so that I can pay attention to the elderlies and the children? And I mean, anything I
Yeah.
can. I
Sure.
have, a broad spectrum of the things that I do, and I never say no.
No.
If somebody says, do you want to come talk to future business leaders of America in Lewiston High School? No problem.
Yeah.
I'll be there. That works for me too.
Yeah.
See, I learn from those kids. I learn from the people I visit in the nursing homes. I've been at more last meals. Mary calls me, it's the last meal. Can you come? Yes. And I drive to Waterville. And I
Sure.
bring in a seafood stew, and I put a celebrity of the day pin, and she died right then and there.
Yeah.
With my stew warm to the touch,
Yeah.
still in her hands, and her last words were, I feel so special.
Yeah.
And I knew that was going to happen.
Sure.
And that doesn't make me sad,
No.
because for that 5 seconds,
Yeah.
she was transported.
That's right.
That's how I look at life now.
It's great.
The process is hard.
Yeah.
And it doesn't, I think, in the time of need is huge. I mean, let's face it, it's been kind of a dicey year
Right. In
for a
many
lot of
ways.
people.
Yes.
And my audience is fickle when it comes to, can be fickle when it comes to, okay, why don't we wait to see what happens on the 8th of November?
Yeah.
Why don't we wait? And when they wait, and when there's uncertainty more so than normal, that's what happens.
Right.
With elections, with the stock market, with a lot of things
Yeah.
I can't control.
That's right.
I wait and I watch and I ask and I listen, and I manage to make it okay.
Yeah.
Somehow there's sort of a sense of calm when you come in these 4 walls.
Well, I think you've progressed significantly to being a national, if not an international phenom from Augusta.
Yeah,
You probably do more good than most politicians do in a year's time.
probably.
And
To some extent,
yes.
although that isn't something I would aspire to
No.
be at all. But
But,
and a couple of people have said that, because I don't see where there's anything wrong with being genuine.
Oh no, there isn't. There isn't.
You know,
Believe me.
but don't get me wrong, I'm
Yeah.
conflicted about some things, not nearly as many as I used to be. I'm conflicted about how right to be under the right circumstances, or how right to be under the wrong circumstances. Those still kind of trip me up a little bit. right in a good way, as in the right thing to do. And it's hard because you do have an assault sometimes of a lot of people thinking that they need more than you're willing to give.
Yeah, and I wasn't speaking ill of politicians.
Right,
it's a
right.
different type of giving that they give
It
for
is.
service.
But just little trust.
But
and
with
I
you,
find the
it's
trust isn't there.
with you. You're impacting the community of Maine, if you will,
Yeah. Well,
because we are a community, whether we like it or not.
I'll tell you what, the last Jeopardy question my mother and I saw, the answer was, what is Maine? And she died with a smile on her face because we would try to get those answers at the end,
Oh,
and it
sure.
finally was, the answer was Maine.
Yeah.
And she smiled, and then she died a week later, so she wasn't able to watch Jeopardy after
Yeah.
that. Again, one of those things that you
Yeah.
can't possibly.
No.
Jeopardy's been around for 40 years, you know.
Right.
That's the one question we saw together. We both knew. We both clapped and smiled and hugged each
Yeah.
other, and it was like there's not another place like Maine
No.
that I
Very
want to
unique.
live.
No,
And
it's
it
unique.
tests you
Yeah.
every day.
That's right.
In business especially,
Yeah.
it tests you. I wouldn't know what to do with myself if I had a time card and I punched out at 5 p.m.
Yeah. I've never
or
been
had a
able to
lunch
do that.
hour.
I've never been able to do that.
And then I know that a lot of people do, and that's great. For me, that's not the way, I don't think that that's the way I could be. Because I want to just keep going and going and going.
Yeah.
In a good way. No, not to the point where I exhaust myself and lose sleep and compromise my health.
Right.
But because I know I can, and I got a lot of making up to do.
Yep. You'll get there. You'll get there.
Yeah.
What about the maps that I see all these little pins on
Yeah.
behind you? Talk
Well,
to me a little
especially
bit
since the
about that.
NBC, this map here, and then we have different languages, of course, that I wouldn't understand. And at one sitting after the first NBC thing, which was huge, let's
Yes.
face it,
Yeah.
good publicity doesn't
Oh,
hurt.
No.
So I had 4 continents and 4 tables.
Wow.
So I'm like, there's only 7, right?
Yeah.
And I walked around and I was so, I don't think that would have happened without national recognition or
Right.
international or whatever it is. But, and it was the top news story of 2016.
Yeah.
Which doesn't just happen.
No.
Not
It's
since
meant
that
to
third
happen.
story window debacle.
No.
You know?
What's meant to happen will happen.
So I just went, oh my God. So there's not 1 minute of one day where I'm not thinking and looking and watching and always aware of how good it feels to be having victories ahead of you instead of battles behind you.
Mm-hmm.
And I will do everything in my power to not go back there.
Right.
I got a second, third, fourth chance at life, and I will not waste that for 1 second.
And certainly using it very well, I
Now-
assure you.
Now,
Yes.
so when I see a gentleman from Australia with the most intoxicating, in a good way, accent,
Yep.
I go, oh, could you just order that one more time and I'll charge you just once.
Yeah.
But can you say it again?
Yeah.
And he laughs. And then there was a man from the Sudan that's sitting at this exact seat. And I was like, oh my God. And I went running in. I said, we got to get pins. And the pins started going up. I mean, we've had, a Cape of Good Hope. One lady was with her family and they were escaping some sort of a coup.
Yeah.
Who were barely able to get out alive and, just get rid of them. She's in my dining room after having flown all day and all night. And I was like, how did I get here with this gal? I opened up early. She had lobster, omelets.
Yeah.
And they're here. And she told me the story. And I was like, I didn't even know what that was. I got to be honest with you.
Yep.
Oh, we just had such good times. There's so many stories that come through these doors.
Yep.
So many pins on those maps from people all over that have one thing in common when they leave is the entire experience. No matter what language, no matter
Right.
what continent.
Yeah. We all speak the same language
We
at the
sure
end
do.
of the day.
We sure do.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Even if you don't know what I'm saying, we understand each other.
That's right. I found that to be very true in my travels.
You're a little bit older than I am.
I'm probably a lot older than you are. I'm not as old as dirt, but I remember my brother inventing it.
Oh, well, there you go. Oh, your older brother or your younger brother?
I think it was my younger brother. Good one. I like that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I'm my father's daughter.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
Yeah.
Talk to me about the water. That's kind of interesting.
This is kind of interesting. You know what? I went to Oxford Casino
Yeah.
because I didn't abort every vice I have.
Yeah, there you go.
And I was sitting there, and my brother is on the machines, and he's spending more money than I would care to spend. So I moved one seat over, and I was at the 25-cent slots. And the lady comes over, and she hands me a little bottle of water, and says Oxford Casino on it. And I'm like, they just opened.
Yeah.
And of course, they're right there with Poland Springs, right? So I looked, and I said, huh. So I go to my purveyor, and I said, how do I get my own water?
Yeah.
If Oxford Casinos can do it, I can do it. And he goes, why don't I check into that? $10 more a bottle? I said, yeah, I'll take that.
Yeah.
You know, then you walk out.
That's good advertisement, I tell you.
You walk out and you got
Yeah.
that bottle of water. I go everywhere with that bottle of water. I am shameless, honey. I will plug that water. I'll just put it right on some counter somewhere in some place and
Yep.
leave.
Yeah.
You never know. One thing I'm very, 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 very aware of is subliminal advertising is powerful.
Very powerful. That's why they took it off TV years ago.
That's right.
Used to be Coca-Cola down the corner and all
Yep.
kinds of little
Yep.
notes.
Powerful.
Yes.
People will remember the things that you wouldn't give them enough credit to remember sometimes.
right.
But I'm a very visceral person.
Yeah.
And I fly under the radar sometimes because when you're adult daughter of an alcoholic, I disappeared. I'm number 9 of 10. So I disappeared. I was the tail end of the batting order, and that's when things got real bad, of course. And I would be so good at, of course I didn't know I was doing this, I would be unavailable. They would always say, where's Laura? The teacher, is Laura here? I would be unavailable. And that I was always there, but I was never really seen very much or heard. I wasn't loud.
Yeah.
So I blended in, and I think that I understand that part of business
Yes.
through that.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't mean you're not aware, and it doesn't mean
That's
you're
right.
not listening. So I just do something like that, and I'll tell you what, you get phone calls. I got a phone call one morning. Listen to this. I got a phone call one morning. Lady says, hi, I'd like to order my medication. She got the wrong number. I said, oh, no, this isn't a doctor's office. This is the Red Barn. She said, oh, I'm so sorry. I've got the wrong number. I said, you don't have the wrong number, honey. Can't you smell that seafood stew from here? She goes, it is my mother's favorite. I said, I'll get a pint all set aside for you. Why don't you come in? Noontime to the nose, she came in.
Yeah.
Lady comes back. She says, there's a lady with a wrong number order here. Does that make any sense to you? Sure do. Brought her out a pint of seafood stew. She's looking at me. I capitalized on that wrong number.
Sure.
You can capitalize. Another thing. My God, I could talk all day. You can capitalize on those things that are right there.
Sure.
Fresh, low-hanging fruit.
That's the secret of business.
I don't go for that. I go for that tight little tomato that hasn't ripened yet, honey.
Yeah.
And I'm going to climb and fall down and climb and get that. Because
Yeah.
one day it's going to ripen.
That's right.
Take time. The good things take time.
Yes, they do.
When you're impetuous
Yeah.
and you act before you think or speak, which is what I was so guilty of doing in so many levels of my life. Now I just go, I'll let you take that fresh hanging. I'll wait.
Yeah.
And you know what? It works.
Yeah,
And that's
it
something,
does.
I got to be honest, even 6 months ago, I would have laughed at myself for saying.
Yeah.
Like, who you think you're trying to kid? I just wait.
Yeah.
Subliminal advertising, business, if you toss it out there, it'll come back.
Yes, it will.
Hard to say for sure when or if, but it always has.
Like I said, what's meant to happen will happen.
It always does.
In spite of you or
That's
for
why I
you.
smile all the
Yeah,
time, because
there you go.
if people get that, see, this is the secret. This is why we're having this
Yeah.
conversation. The secret is, don't try too hard,
Right.
and don't worry about things you can't control, and don't have an agenda.
Right. Yeah.
You can't have an agenda,
You
and
can-
trust is very important in business.
Agenda will kill issues. Agendas are good for professional meetings. But if you have an agenda in life, it's going to hurt you at
It
the end of the
is.
day.
Because you're a little older than me, right?
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
see?
a day or two. Yeah. Yeah.
Think about it.
And, I think it's very nice that you've taken the time
Thank you.
out of your busy schedule
Thank
to
you. Do you
just
notice
sit
I'm-
down and chat and talk about you and where you've been and where you are now and what the Red Barn does and all the success and the community involvement. I want to thank you
You're welcome.
for all you do. It's
Thank
just
you for having
amazing.
me.
And I hope all the people out there will stop by and say hi to Laura at the Red Barn when you get an
Come see me.
opportunity. Yes. Great person.
I'll be listening.
There you go. Thank you, and that'll do it on this edition of Kennebec Valley Forum. We'll see you next time.